Hi, my name is Mark Yarnell, and I'd like to welcome you into my home for a very special but brief insight into what I call the inner sanctum of network marketing. I want to preface my comments by saying this: you're not going to hear this stuff from other people. As a matter of fact, when I have made some of these comments from the stage in front of other leaders, they've said, "God, Yarnell, I wish you wouldn't have said that," so I know I'm on to something. One of my favorite books, and I hope you like this writer too, is by a gentleman named Larry Winget. I became addicted to him years ago. He's called the pit bull of personal development. He's written a number of New York Times bestsellers. But this one I love. It's called People Are Idiots and I Can Prove It. Now, I'm not as cynical as Larry, but as a matter of fact, I love all people, and I think we're all doing the best we can at all times. So I don't think of people as being stupid. But I have noticed something about network marketing that's always been perplexing to me, and that is, and I've been asked, if you could design a motto that would go over the front door of every network marketing company in the world, what would that motto be? What would be the motto for MLM? And I don't hesitate. I say, if I were designing a motto, it would simply say, "Abandon all common sense, ye who enter here." I have never seen an industry like this in my life. All you've got to do, as we get into the inner sanctum and the ideas that I want to share with you, you'll get some tricks of the trade and some stuff you've never heard before. But I want you to pretend that when you're getting people into network marketing, they should be treated with respect and they should be introduced to common sense, due diligence, and principles that will really help them. But I want you to know going in, this is a very, very interesting industry. I'll give you an example, and I think I can illustrate it with kind of a visual aid. If I were 20 years old and I lived in any city in the world and I won at Powerball, and I decided that I wanted to start an MLM company, I could walk into any number of consulting organizations, and there are many of them, and I could walk up to the consultant and I could say, "Yo, dog, sup? I just won Powerball and I want to start me one of them, one of them MLM companies where all the women will listen to me speak and I can be on stage and I can give away cars. Yo, dog, can you set me up with an MLM?" And you know what? If I had won enough money in Powerball, they could. And I'm not saying that most people who start MLM companies, network marketing companies, are like that. I'm just saying it's possible. I don't have to have a product that I actually want to take to market. There are companies that can provide me products. I don't have to have a pay plan. There are companies that calculate those for me. I don't need a management team. I don't need a warehouse. I don't need a production facility. All I need is the money to start my own MLM company, and I'm in no way regulated. It's not like the Securities and Exchange Commission coming down on a franchise, or no, anybody can start one if they want. So what happens is we leaders have to be a little bit more adamant when we're talking to people about our industry that they use common sense principles. Common sense. Now, when I said earlier, I'm going to let you in on the inner sanctum of network marketing. I want you to know some stuff that you haven't heard before. I want you to gain a benefit from this brief time together we're sharing here in my home. Here's what I want you to understand first of all. There are just a couple of things that are important related specifically to this idea of how people abandon common sense when they get into this industry. There are company choices and there are distributor personality profiles. And it's very, very important that you understand that they match up. But if a person with certain paradigms and certain mentalities and certain risk aversions and certain skill sets gets in the wrong kind of company, they cannot succeed. Let me explain what I mean. A company goes through 3 phases of growth. Now, I'm going to define it myself. You've all heard about the inception of the company and momentum and stability and all that, concentration. Lots of great people have come up with different definitions of the different phases companies go through. But I want you to tell you my definition. I want you to understand my definition. I think it's important, and people need to understand this. We'll call the $0 to $5 million a month company, a company that's going from 0 to 5 million a month. I'm going to call that the Explorer company. Just, think about the explorers of old. Think about coming to the United States. Think about looking for this continent. The second, and I'm going to call this from 5 million to 100 million a month, I call the pioneer phase, where people then feel a little bit safe. Christopher Columbus has already got the boats over to the shore, and he's gone back and told them, we found land, it's great. Now, all of the pioneers come on board, and that's the period in an MLM company from 5 million to 100 million a month, where all the big money is usually made. Once a company hits 100 million a month, I call that a different era, a different phase. I call that the settler or the post-billion phase. What a lot of people are never taught is that we all have different personality styles. And I think the best way I can explain this to you is relate it to the financial sector. There are some people who prefer safe investments. They're risk averse. They want to know that if they put $10,000 in a company, that it's a solid company, a stable company. They know they're never going to make a fortune because they're not speculating, but they know they're going to save their money in a good, solid company. A good example would be Microsoft, or Chevron, or Google, or Air Canada, Canadian, any of the big companies that you think about. Just dwell on them for a moment. The big, stable ones are the ones that people feel very comfortable with. Now, these three phases that a company goes through, the explorer, the pioneer, and the settler stages, are very important for you to understand. Here's why. If you are an explorer and you try to get in at the settler stage, you're going to be miserable. If you're a settler and you go against your investment strategies, your conservative mindset, and you get in at the explorer stage, you're going to be miserable. The only person in the middle, the pioneer, is happy in most phases of the company. But here's where people get fouled up. They don't understand that they may be getting into the wrong personality style company based on growth for them. Example, if you're risk averse, the last thing you want to do is get a phone call from Aunt Mildred and have her tell you, honey, we've found a pre-launch company. They have found this magic product from over across the seas, and the native healers over there say it'll cure everything, and we're going to get in. We've got a special position. We're getting in at the pre-launch phase. Now, if you're a conservative person, if you're a settler, if you're the guy that comes along or the gal that comes along after the explorers have found the new fertile ground and the pioneers have pioneered it, and you get involved as a settler, by the way, the settlers, the people that come after the pioneers, when it's safe, like if the person's investing in Exxon or Microsoft or Google or whatever, those are the settlers. They don't like risk. If you are a settler and you're conservative and Aunt Mildred sucks you into a ground floor opportunity in the pre-launch stage, you will never be very excited. In fact, you might be fearful because a lot of companies go under. This is an exceptionally volatile industry. There have been 14 companies since Mary Kay launched in the late well, not Mary Kay, God bless them, they did billions too. Avon was the first one. It goes Avon, Amway, Mary Kay. Those three wonderful companies launched respectively in the 1800s, mid and late 1900s, and 2000s, people made a lot of money. So here's the deal. Since Avon launched in I believe it was 86 or 87, if history serves me well, if my memory serves me well, that company has gone to $10 billion in sales. It's a great company. Started in the early or late 1800s, and what happened was a lot of women and a lot of men made a lot of money. But here's what you need to understand. Since that time, there have been 10,000 companies that have launched, that have applied for some form of licensure in just North America. And out of those 10,000 companies, between when the first company, Avon, was launched, and today, in 2013, which is when I'm talking to you, there have been 10,000 companies, and 14 of them have made it to $1 billion. Do you know what the statistical likelihood of you picking a good company at the right time is? It's 14/100ths of 1%. My friend, you might as well play Powerball. That's the statistical unlikelihood that you could just blunder into a great company. So listen to me carefully, because I'm one of those people who absolutely defied the statistical likelihood. I blundered into a great company. And I'm going to tell you how I made it, how I blundered into it, and what everybody needs to learn as they're presenting their particular opportunity to other people. But anyway, back to this. So you've got the Explorer time. That's 0 to 5 million a month. That's the toughest time to be in a network marketing company, and most of them go under. But boy, do you make a lot of money if you get in early. But if you are a settler or a pioneer, you're going to be scared. You don't want to risk your time and your money in an upstart company. Don't get in one, okay? Here's the thing I want to say to you, though. If you are a pioneering, free-spirited person who's not afraid of risk, if you don't care, if you're willing to roll the dice in life all the time, the last thing you want to do is get into a post-billion settler company. Because what happens is, as the company migrates through the Explorer, 0 to 5 million, through the Pioneer, 5 to 100 million a month, to the Settler, post-billion a year, and continues to expand, it's safe, but you don't have the risk and the excitement of the ground floor. Now, here's what I'm saying. Use a little common sense. If you're prospecting people who are risk-averse, people who are extremely conservative, maybe they're analytical type people, engineer types, people who would not really invest their money, for example, in an upstart Wall Street investment scheme of any kind. They're too cautious for that. You have no business trying to recruit them into either an Explorer or a Pioneer company. They will not be happy. They will quit. So don't abandon common sense when you're recruiting people. What I need you to know right up front is there are company choices and there are distributor personality profiles. And those three profiles of the distributor, whether you're an Explorer, a Pioneer, or a Settler, match up with the 0 to 5 million first phase, 5 to 100 million second phase, and post-billion settler phase, the third phase. Get into the wrong category, and you're going to be very, very disappointed, and you're probably going to quit. Okay, so the first thing that in the inner sanctum of knowledge that you need to understand, depending on what kind of company you're in, look for the people whose personality types match that company's growth phase. You're looking for people who want to play it fairly safe in a stable company if you're in a 20-year-old company. And by the way, let me back up and say one thing. There's money to be made at each of these stages. There's risks that are commensurate with income potential. So essentially, you can get into a 0 to 5 million a month company in that all favorable Explorer stage, and the risks are very, very high. Truthfully, though, you can make a killing if you've got the guts to do it. Or you can get in anywhere from 5 million to, say, 100 million a month, and you can make a darn good living. In fact, you can make a killing. From 5 to 100 million a month, that's a 20-fold growth in your check if you're working. You can even get into a company that has been around for years and years and years and make a really good living working from home with no employees, no overhead, no accounts receivable, no computer downtime, no FICA to pay, no headaches, no traffic, all the great things about network marketing. You can make money in that third kind of company. What I'm saying is, you're not going to be happy or successful if you focus on recruiting people who don't fit in your particular era and phase of growth of the company you're in. Okay? Now, that's the first thing. There are company choices and there are distributor personality types. They need to match up. If you're getting in a ground floor deal from 0 to 5 million, don't go after engineer analysts who are going to sit with a slide rule and compute every element of it. Those people are probably not going to be happy in that kind of a risky situation. Match up the people to the opportunity you're in. And understand, if your goal is to take a shot at the big money, you're going to have to take the risk. Because once a company goes through that wave of momentum, you're either going to ride the wave or you're going to eat the foam. It's your choice. If you're not afraid of risk, you want to get in real early. Or you want to be a pioneer from 5 to 100 million. Or if you don't like risk and you want to be careful, I can't emphasize this enough, become a settler, join a longer-term company. You know you're going to get your checks and your products on time, you're safe, and you can make a darn good living, a lot better than most people make in traditional capitalism. But match your prospects up with the kind of company that you're presenting to them, or you're going to have a nightmare of problems. They've got to be compatible. Second thing I want to talk to you about is this. We have undergone a dramatic shift in humanity in just the last 50 years. For the whole time of recorded history, we were one way. And just 48 years ago, we started dramatically altering the way that we learn new information and the way that we proceed and become productive. Human history was always about apprenticing. It was literally all about finding somebody with the wisdom to take you by the hand and teach you how to do a marble statue, how to be a blacksmith, how to do computer code, even computer code writing in the early days. It's always been about apprenticing. We've always had people to take us by the hand. That worked for me in network marketing when I got involved back in 1986 on the very ground floor of a great company. But here's what's happened. Human history was always apprenticing. Now it's about, in the last 50 years, what I call discipline-based learning, where people are increasingly getting more and more information off of the internet, off of training tools, CDs, DVDs, they're surfing the net. And so we've shifted from this period of time where for centuries it served us well to mentor or apprentice under a role model that was exceptionally good, into this thing where we think, well, all we got to do is read about it. All we got to do is study it. Now, here's one of these rules of the inner sanctum that I'm going to say to you that I have had people say, Yarnell, I wish you would have never said that. And I'm going to begin by telling you my story. I had an accidental match, my personality to this company. I'm going to tell you right up front. People say, well, how'd you make so much money in that company? And it's no lie. I got into New Skin International, which to this day I think is one of the greatest companies in the history of capitalism. I got in early. I made a fortune. It was nothing but blind luck. I'd like to say, well, I had these special skill sets, and I had this great education, and my daddy taught me how to do sales, and blah, blah, blah. No, it was none of that. I blundered into a great company at the very earliest explorer stage, and I rode the wave to greatness. That was first of all. I got lucky. I beat the odds. Remember I told you it was like playing Powerball? I won Powerball by finding that company in April of '86. It was an accidental match. My personality, not fearful of risk. That's why I paraglide. That's why I do radical sports. I'm not afraid of risk. I love it. It's entertaining to me. So it perfectly matched my temperament. I get on the very ground floor. Nobody knew it was going to go on to become a multi-billion-dollar great international company, but I didn't care. So I matched up perfectly, but here was the real trick, and here's the information I want to give you that's going to completely change your career in network marketing. I hope you write this down and pay attention to it. First, there was the accidental match where my personality fit the ground floor of that great company. I love the Explorer stage. But secondly, there was a thing I called the accidental upline tracking. Let me tell you what I mean by that. The guy who got me into the company signed up the day before I did. He didn't know anything. Now, how's he going to teach? Now, he's a good friend of mine. That's the way a lot of people sign up in network marketing. Somebody calls an aunt, an uncle, a friend, a next-door neighbor. Hey, you're not going to believe what I found. Blah, blah, blah. Well, the problem was the guy that showed me this company didn't know anything, and it only took me 5 minutes to figure that out. So I asked Bill, who taught you about this? And he told me, and it was a guy right there in Austin, Texas. Well, I looked him up, and I found out he'd only been in a week longer than Bill, and he didn't know squat. So I said, well, who brought, my logical mind, my sequencing is telling me I've got to find somebody who can get me to the big money. If this big money is that possible, where am I going to find this person? So I started tracking upline, upline, upline. The fourth person I got to tried to pitch me on another MLM company. He'd already quit after 2 months and was doing another deal, so I couldn't very well work with him. But he said, well, maybe you want to talk to my sister-in-law. So I called her. No, she was drunk the night I called her. She couldn't even talk to me. She was slurring her words. I finally found out that the person 6 levels above me who had sponsored all this dog and pony show of people who couldn't help me was a guy named Richard Call in Long Island. Now keep this in mind. This is the beauty of networking. I'm sitting in Austin, Texas, broke. Richard Call's living in Hauppauge, Long Island, wealthy. He's made millions. I've lost everything. we met on the telephone because I tracked upline and I got him. And guess what I did? Here's the deal. Yes, I got lucky. Yes, I got in early. Yes, it matched my personality style. I love risk and I love being an explorer and a pioneer. But I also went upline until I found somebody who, A, was very successful, and B, was willing to apprentice, to mentor me. I needed a role model. Now, I submit to you, if I were to give everybody in network marketing just one multi-million-dollar idea, it would certainly be this one. You have somebody in your organization. I don't care if you are in an explorer company that's still between 0 and 5 million. If you've moved, if your company, if it's a pioneering company and it's between 5 and 100 million a month, even if it's a long-term stable company, a post-billion settler type corporation that's been around 25 years, there is somebody somewhere above you who will role model for you, will serve as an apprentice. All you've got to do is get their name, track upline until you find somebody. Now, I've heard people say, but Yarnell, these are the big girls and the big boys. They're not even accessible. Friend, if you're in a company where you can't find, and this is where the leaders get mad. When I say this from the stage, I don't really care. It's the truth. If you're in a company where the leaders are totally inaccessible and the people who stand to make millions of dollars off of your energy and your efforts will not take your phone call and work with you on a daily basis so you can do this apprenticeship that I did with Richard Call, that's the only time I say to you, you're in the wrong company. Because the best way to do this business is not to go online, not to read another book. I see people all the time who are stuck getting started. Well, one more book. Well, one more seminar. Well, one more. Always something else. No. Here's all you need. You've picked the company you like. Now you got to track upline and find somebody that's a role model who will take a vested interest in your success. The only time I ever tell people to move on is if they're in a company where they're not making enough money and they can't get at somebody who will allow them to serve as an apprentice. It will not work, in my humble opinion, no matter what kind of company you get in. So that's the first thing that I really want to say. Really the second thing. First thing is the kinds of companies out there and how they match up to personality styles. The second thing is track upline. Forget about Aunt Mildred. You know, I know you love her and she brought you into the business and she was excited about it, and so now but if you want to make big money, forget about Aunt Mildred unless she's highly successful. You go track upline until you find somebody. Now, so that's the first part, and I'm going to rip through the second part because I want you to know the first things Richard Call taught me. Because once you know these things, they're really going to help you tremendously. I'm going to tell you what Richard taught me. Now, he was my mentor for 3 years. He was always accessible to me. It didn't matter. When I picked up the phone to call him, Richard was there to help me. He had written a great book called The First Million is the Easiest. He'd made millions of dollars, and he was there for me. Now, listen to me carefully. He said to me 3 things. Number 1, he said, go wide fast. Now, there are 2 terms in network marketing, width and depth. Just in case you don't know, and I'm sure most of you do. To go wide means to personally sponsor people on your front line, the people you personally bring to the business. Your depth is everybody beneath you. A lot of people get into the management trap and start working their depth too soon. Richard said, Mark, go wide fast. Go wide fast. Keep going wide no matter what, and I did. He also said, Mark, the lifeblood of your organization is the new blood. Stop prospecting, and eventually your whole organization is going to fold and you're going to have problems. I took him to heart on that. I never but one time went without talking to 10, 15, 20 people a day and inviting them to take a look at my business. And that one time that I did, I was in a slump for 90 days because I was not filling the pipeline. So, number 1, Richard taught me, and I want you to understand, if you're in the right company and you've got upline and you've got the right leaders and everything, just remember these tenets. Go wide fast, put as many people on your front line as you possibly can, because your goal is to get a legitimate product to end consumers. The more people you bring into the business, the more products are distributed ultimately through your organization to everybody else. Number 2, the lifeblood is the new blood. Do not stop prospecting new people. Do not stop looking for brand new people. The lifeblood is the new blood. If you stop prospecting, you're wasting your life. And the third thing he taught me was this. Turn pro, and avoid all distractions. And I remember saying to him when he first told me, you're being an amateur and you need to turn pro. I said, Well, Richard, that's kind of a snotty thing to say to me. What do you mean I'm being an amateur? He said, no, I don't mean it in a disparaging way. What I mean is you're not getting paid to do the crap you're doing, Yarnell. You're out talking to people about other comp plans. You're comparing companies. You're out all the time doing goofball stuff. He said, Mark, listen to me carefully. When you're watching Oprah, or you're walking the dog, or you're calling people about other programs, or you're reading brochures from other companies, or you're picking up faxes in your office and studying other products and pay plans, you're not paid. You're an amateur. Professionals get paid. So let me leave you with this imparted little bit of knowledge that he gave me that was so critical. He said, you know, Mark, you're only paid to do two things in our industry. Our company's only going to pay you to do two things. And if you aren't doing these two things, you're an amateur, meaning you're not getting paid like a professional. The first is to distribute legitimate products to end consumers at a reasonable price. The second is to recruit a large group of network people to build and further distribute those legitimate products at a reasonable price to end consumers. In the final analysis, in a legitimate network marketing opportunity, it's all about the legitimate distribution of well-priced products that literally make a difference in people's lives. This is part one of what I call the inner sanctum. I hope that you'll think closely about the different kinds of companies, and you might even want to ask yourself, given my personality style, given my feelings about risk, given my desire for stability or whatever, am I really in the right position with the right company? And if I'm not, maybe that's why I'm not making a lot of money. And do I really want to recruit people into my category of company if their personality doesn't align and match with this kind of company? And secondly, remember, you need role model apprenticing. And I guarantee you, if you're in a good company, you can track upline until you find somebody to be your role model. Or, you know what you could do? You could just abandon all common sense like so many people do in network marketing. You know, I guess what I could do is, instead of having common sense, let me bend down here a second. Got to get my props. I guess what I could do is I could just spend the rest of my life going, yo, dog, want to make some big money? Want to cruise on down and get another tat or a nose ring? That's not what I want to do. And that's not what I'm going to teach you to do. And in the inner sanctum ideas number 2, I'm going to share specific steps you can take, given the company you're in, the product you've got, and I'm going to pretend you don't even have a mentor. I'm going to show you what I've learned over the years. This is part 1. I hope you join me again for part 2 in the very near future. I'm Mark Yarnell. Thanks for coming into my home for this brief time, and I hope these thoughts help you.